Hey guys, so I am here with a non-music related video. So this is just going to be a video about my thoughts on both games, Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm not really going to do a review of the game, it's more so going to be my thoughts on the storyline and how the games compare and how the stories can be pretty emotional. So I definitely would recommend you going and playing it. I think that if you like intense storylines and you like open world games and a lot of freedom to do your own thing outside of just the main missions, and you're into westerns, obviously, I would think you would want to sort of be a fan of that type of era in order to be able to play them, because they're both really long. So that's another thing. If you like long games, you're definitely gonna get a bang for your buck here. With that, there are definitely gonna be a ton of spoilers throughout the rest of this video, so if you haven't played either of them yet, I would suggest clicking off this video and going and playing and then coming back when you're done. A lot of people I've spoken to about Red Dead Redemption 2 actually never played the first one. You had 8 years to get to it, so I don't know what took you so long, but I definitely think that there was a heavier marketing emphasis with Red Dead Redemption 2, and because of technology and everything, it was probably advertised a lot more than the first one was. The first one actually takes place in chronological time after. So the second game serves as the prequel to the first. It gets very confusing. I'll start with what sparked my interest in getting the first game in the first place. I've been playing Grand Theft Auto since I was in like the 3rd and 4th grade. A lot of my friends had it, so I would play it at their houses and then got it on my own. And I really liked the open world aspect of the games, that you didn't always have to just be going from mission to mission. And since Grand Theft Auto always had cars, I thought it would be so cool if they made some kind of game where you were riding horses instead. I did pick up a game called Gun. That was for PS2. I loved Gun. I thought it was awesome. Now, when I was in the store one day, it was probably Target or something, I did see a game for PS2 called Red Dead Revolver. Now, this is actually the first of the franchise from Rockstar. And I liked that it was a Western and I saw you could ride horses in the back of the box, so I got it for PS2. And I really wasn't a fan of it. I didn't like how it wasn't an open world. You had to just jump from level to level, and honestly some of the levels were so frustratingly difficult to get past for me that I just kind of walked away from the game and was anticipating the release of Red Dead Redemption. First of all, the theatrical trailers for Red Dead Redemption were so awesomely put together and so dramatic that it seemed like you were going to be going and seeing a movie. I was so excited for this game. You are John Marston, you used to ride in a gang, and you are being basically used by the government. They have your family held as ransom, and they are having you go and help them round up your old gang members to bring them in for prison or hanging or whatever is going to happen to them. So you go across the entire map throughout the game chasing down your old gang members. You ride all throughout New Austin. You go to Mexico to chase down Billy Williamson because he gets away. The Mexico part, I think, is where I got a little bit lost in the game. I was a lot more concerned just on beating that aspect of the game than kind of doing side missions and exploring the way I had been previously in New Austin. And I think it's because a lot of the story revolving around John Marston specifically gets lost because you get tied up in the Mexican Revolution that's going on. You eventually, towards the end, get to Dutch van der Linde's hideout and you meet him on a cliff and he jumps off. Essentially have carried out your mission and you help out the feds. You're back with your family on the farm. You're bonding with your son Jack because you had an estranged relationship while he was growing up, and everything seems to be going great. You're a free man until the feds show up at your house and they just full on execute you. And John falls gurgling to the ground and dies. You spend how many tens of hours playing as John Marston, and then you watch him die. And then you become Jack Marston, grown up, who went from being really interested in literature and innocent to a killer who avenges his father. I loved this game. I cannot even tell you how many times I've played it between then, when it came out in 2010, and now. when Red Dead Redemption 2 came out. I have been waiting for a second one for so long. I tried playing other games. They didn't interest me nearly as much. I got Call of Juarez Bound in Blood, and it just did not catch my attention. With that, Red Dead Redemption 2 came out in October. To start off, I guess I was, first of all, a little bit disappointed that you weren't playing as a younger John Marston to begin with. I thought that it was strange that you were actually playing as another character named Arthur Morgan, and he actually wasn't getting along with John. So it kind of seemed strange that they had you play the first game as John, and you got so invested as him, and then basically in the second game, your character and him don't even get along, so it almost looks like John is supposed to be the enemy. They paint him as this deadbeat father who wants nothing to do with Jack because he didn't think he was his, and him and Abigail are fighting, and it just doesn't seem like the John that you got to know in the first Red Dead Redemption. So I had a lot of mixed feelings in the beginning. I did, however, eventually get very attached to Arthur Morgan's character as the game went on. There was a point in Red Dead Redemption 2 where I was camping, and I got a notification saying I was at my lowest weight. So I went out and I cooked like 3 different bunnies, and I went back, and then I got a notification saying, "You are sick. Eating and drinking will only restore a certain amount of your health core," or something like that. And I was like, what do you mean I'm sick? What am I sick from? Then the scene comes when you're in Saint Denis and you get off the horse and have a coughing fit and just black out. And you go to the doctor, and as soon as he starts asking you questions, I said, he has TB. And what do you know? The doctor turns and says, you have tuberculosis and it's not good. I'm sorry. As the game goes on, Arthur starts to second guess a lot of the actions that the gang is doing. John and Arthur start to have a closer bond. By the end of the game, you're pretty much going around and doing all these things, trying to make things right that you made wrong originally. You figure out all the times in Red Dead Redemption 1 that John was saying they left me for dead was the train scene when they're robbing the train and John gets shot and falls off. So it literally all just starts to tie in and make sense, and it is freaking mind-boggling and crazy and very dramatic. Arthur is dwindling away. He is so skinny. He is coughing like crazy. His stamina is shit. I chose to help John escape because you can tell that that's kind of the precursor to what happens and sets the stage for Red Dead Redemption 1. The part where Arthur hands John his saddlebag and his hat, John puts it on and you just automatically, like, he looks exactly like he does in the first game. And it's like, wow. So that kind of makes you think the whole first game, John is wearing Arthur's hat. Very emotional. And then Arthur has basically a standoff with Micah. Depending on whether you were good or bad, the ending is different for this. I was good, so I saw deer through all of the little visions that Arthur was having throughout his life in the game. And ultimately, he dies from the tuberculosis watching the sunrise. You see his chest stop puffing out because he stopped breathing. I was just sitting there like, what the fuck, with tears in my eyes. And I was like, great, so now he's dead. And I was really hoping that during the epilogue, which I was told by several people that it's really long, a lot longer than most people think, that you would actually get to play as John. And voila, the epilogue starts and it says it's a few years later and you're John, Abigail, and Jack riding in a wagon. And yeah, the epilogue seemed to kind of drag on for a while. I could have definitely done without the bounty hunter missions with Sadie. They seemed to really not have anything to do with what ends up happening. Dutch shoots Micah is very satisfying. You get the money, the game ends, and then you're just John in this open world. And while I guess, you know, it's interesting you can go and finish killing off all the legendary animals and doing side missions and quests, it just kind of felt like, okay, now that Arthur's gone, I just kind of don't want anything to do with this. So by the end of the second game, I was sad to be playing as John rather than happy. So with that, I kind of want to go into what I did and didn't like about the game. I will start with my issues with the game so you can kind of leave off on a better note, a happier note, just like Red Dead Redemption 2 does. My first problem with the game is that it starts in this blizzard and everybody's talking about what happened on the boat in Blackwater. I personally think that the game should have started with a cutscene of whatever went down in Blackwater. Maybe not the whole thing, but maybe just at least the end, and then skips to the scene where they're walking around in the mining town that's being snowed in. Because I think a little bit of visual context about what happened would have been a good way to set up the game. Because just hearing about people talking and giving their different recounts of what happened is just, it's confusing, and it's kind of like, okay, nobody ever really finds out what happened in Blackwater. Another thing that I wasn't too crazy about as the game went on was the fact that you find out that Arthur is going to die. I mean, with Red Dead Redemption 1, you have no idea that John is going to get ambushed. You think you're for the most part, they make it just completely seem like once you help them that you're going to be off the hook. But with this game, I mean, you're expecting it. So it's kind of almost as if every major mission that happened after he got the diagnosis, I was expecting him to die. I don't know. I mean, I guess the whole point of that is so that he can start having his change of heart and start doing things for the better earlier on, but it just seemed kind of depressing that you're walking around as someone who's dying. I actually restarted the game because I do want to play it from a different perspective and play with a low honor. I just got to the scene where you fight Thomas Downs and he's coughing all over you, and it happens in the second chapter that you actually contract the sickness. Although you're able to go around and freely explore the rest of the world, there's just nothing to do there. Armadillo's like, everybody's dying there. So I think it was nice that they included that open part of the map because you're able to go and explore and feel nostalgic for the places that you used to ride around as John. But at the same time, I think that they could have made it a little bit more gameplay friendly because there's no missions or anything that really take place there. And so obviously for things that I like, again, I'm gonna repeat the storyline. It's really long, it's really intensive, it's really dramatic, and it gets you really invested in the characters for the most part. I think that this game has a lot of improvements with interactions with the world around you. I like that there's a lot more diverse ground that you can cover. So first of all, you're starting in an area completely different from New Austin. And Saint Denis, if you didn't notice, is based completely on New Orleans. When I was walking around it, I could tell that the buildings were like exact replicas of the French Quarter because I've been there a couple times and I thought that was really interesting. So it kind of made me want to just wander around and explore. And the fact that the swamps are so close to it makes it obvious that Lemoyne is based on Louisiana. There's the southern areas, there's the northern areas, there's complete snowy mountainous areas. And then you can still explore the map for the most part from the first game. And also Guarma is, when did you ever think you were going to be like a gunslinging cowboy in a tropical island? I mean, it's kind of crazy. It was cool. It was a strange twist, but it was pretty cool. I like that they added that little bit of spice to the story. But those are some things I do and don't like about the games. I've seen tons of videos on Easter eggs, which I think I'm a little bit too freaked out to explore on my own. Let me know what you guys think of the game, what you do and don't like about it, and honestly, if you haven't played Red Dead Redemption 1 and you watch this video, you already know everything that happens, so I'm sorry, but I do recommend playing it. I definitely think that it adds to the story. I know I'm going to actually go and play the first one after I finish the second one for the second time because it takes place chronologically if you play it like that, so I feel like it's just going to make so many more, ooh, ah, like that's it, and you can associate the events with each other more. And also, if you guys have any game suggestions for me that also have stories that are this intense, let me know. I like that Red Dead Redemption series are realistic. There's nothing sci-fi about it. See you next time.